You're listening to a Galactic Network podcast. For more, go to gncast.com.
We are the ElseNerds.
Hello and welcome to ElseNerds, a production of Galactic Network. I'm Gregor Sprague, and joining me is Corey Scott. And for all info on this show, including show notes and subscription links, go to ElseNerds.com. And for other Galactic Network programs, go to gncast.com. And as a warning on ElseNerds, we tend to shoot our mouths off without thinking, so we will both spoil things and swear liberally.
Yes,
Corey,
like a makeout session with Aziz Ansari, we're not for everybody.
So...
Do you need some recovery time?
No, because I was gonna go into that a little bit more, but
no, there's no reason to. There's no reason to.
Like we did that last week, and I'm of the mindset of let's not do that because
I made the horrible joke, and now we move on. Speaking
of corrections, we have some. Like I think this came out the day after we recorded. In all honesty, this news. The news is that our ElseWords from last week, where we talked about the movies that were coming out, some changes have already been made to that. Deadpool 2 and the New Mutants have moved their dates. So Deadpool 2 is moving up 2 weeks from June 1st to May 18th. And the New Mutants is moving from April 13th to February 22nd, 2019. Oh, and also the other news is that Gambit is seeing its release date move from Valentine's Day 2019 to June 7th, 2019.
It's moving from halfway up Channing Tatum's ass to all the way up Channing Tatum's ass.
Yeah, so that one,
which is not a bad place to be.
Yeah, I agree with what you said in the pre-show of until we get more out of it, like I'll go so far as a teaser trailer. I don't care what date they set, because that's right now it's a goal. Basically, it's a game of flag football that you play in the park right now. And they're like, oh, well, we're not going to make this goal, so we're just going to move it back a little bit further so we have more time here. But
just real fast.
Yeah.
At this point in time, which film has lost more directors, Gambit or The Flash? Because I feel like they've both gone through three, right? They've gone through three different directors. Like, Ben Affleck's The Batman movie hasn't gone through that many directors yet. It's still just piss in the wind at this point, like a lot of DC's output. But the Gambit thing, it's like it came out of nowhere with Tatum wanting to do it. And it was, oh, what a weird thing. But yeah, I don't see him as Gambit, but he could probably do all right. He's been impressive in enough things that I wouldn't put anything past him at this point. You know, I am definitely, I'm not the giant Tatum fan, but I like his output. I think that even if you go back to his little, I was going to say dance off with your pants off, then sure, you know, he's always shown talent. I didn't like him getting killed in the second, so I heard spoilers, G.I. Joe, because I was like, the guy's earned his due. He should be a part of this. And it was kind of unnecessary to move their franchise over to The Rock, which is okay. But I thought a Rock Channing Tatum movie, that could have been fucking gangbusters, especially in hindsight. But this movie just keeps not happening. And at some point, he's going to be frustrated enough to not be into it. And with the situation of Fox getting acquired by Disney, how much are they really into this? How much should they be into it? Is it something that they're really like aching for? If we need this Gambit movie, you know, or do we service Tatum in another way? I mean, he's done such great movies taking place in space. He's got to be in a Star War.
Yeah. So, anyways, because I wasn't going to focus on that one because again, that's so far out that it's in video game terms, this is Duke Nukem Forever, or as I like to call the new Duke Nukem Forever, Red Dead Redemption 2, because that game gets pushed back so many times. It's the kids that you bully in the game Bully, also made by Rockstar Games. But I was going to talk about the other two movies because it's really interesting. Because last week with how they were going, there was a good month between the two, 2 months between Deadpool 2 and New Mutants here in America. But what did it, because I read an article the next day, I'm like, oh, well, okay, that's great. They got moved for the change of the studios to avoid having an overlap with X-Men movies in certain overseas markets where New Mutants and Deadpool 2 would have been in theaters at the same time. So basically, they don't want the fact that one thing's going to eat the lunch of another. It's like they want to get all the money they can out of New Mutants and all the money they can out of Deadpool 2, especially with those. I mean, there is overlap with those things because they're both rated R movies. They're both going to appeal more to the adult audiences as opposed to the kids. Well, unless the kids are like you were growing up.
Well, no. So if they were like me growing up, then right now they're practically dead. But no, I don't. I look at the New Mutants, and yes, it's. I expect it's R-rated. It is a horror themed kind of superhero movie. Is what we've seen, but I still see teenagers wanting to see it because it's their peers. They're a good likely audience for it, just in the same way that teens might have watched it, although it is taking place with younger kids.
Okay, when I say kids, I mean below teenager, not teens, because
right.
I mean, I was going to see R-rated movies when I was 12, but then again, I also look like I was 27 at the age of 12.
But I'm a little bitter, not just because I'm excited for a New Mutants movie, but because we've seen essentially a trailer for it. We've seen more footage of that than we've seen of Deadpool. So to have it be pushed back 8 months,
yeah,
it's really, really off-putting. It feels like either they don't have confidence in it, or they're willing to sacrifice it, or because they want to see what else is going on with this deal with Disney. I'm not sure. They moved Deadpool into the slot that I believe is between the Han Solo film, #Red Cup, and the new Avengers movie? Is that what's coming out on the other side of it?
I believe so, yeah. But I mean, even I think a lot of people might be looking too much into these things because of the Marvel Fox deal. I don't feel like Gambit is the one that okay, I could see it happening because they haven't gotten they have a writer on it who's written a script. They just need
Gambit is a fart in an elevator nobody's riding in right now.
But the other one, like pushing back New Mutants, I think they probably looked at moving it up as well. Like, okay, they're probably thinking, okay, we can't get it edited in time for that. Moving it back, they're like, well, there's no other movies that we feel like we could go up against and win. So
I don't buy the first one. I do buy the second one. I do believe that if you're in a heavy year of so many other superhero properties anyways, but that was always going to be the case. It's not going to get better. It's not like there's going to be less superhero movies coming out next year.
Not just superhero movies though. I'm talking about like other Fox movies, because again, we go with the whole them not wanting to eat their own lunch.
Oh, is there a goddamn bullshit Bryan Singer travesty of X-Men coming out this year too? Is the Jean Grey is fucking Phoenix again movie coming up? Is that what's happening?
Yeah,
God damn it.
Dark Phoenix is coming out in like October, November.
So if in some stupid way New Mutants somehow spins out of the new X-Men movie, then maybe that could make sense to me. But
no, I think it's gonna be separate. And then the other part is that obviously this is what obviously happened. I'm blanking on her name, but Sansa Stark obviously wanted to get her movie out before Arya.
She's already had one.
But no, like these two, they're like coming out, boom, same year. Be like, no, I want mine out first.
She already had one.
I'm not counting the other.
You're not.
Dark Phoenix.
Don't be dead.
I'm talking about the Dark Phoenix movie, the one that already had a cover, even though it's not coming out until end of the year, where they're like, oh, look, this is Sophie Turner. We have her in Entertainment Weekly talking about this movie and it's coming out. And then it was a horrible joke. You just had to kill it. Thank you.
That's what I do. I bring the death to humor. Yeah, it's fine. I think if you want to go with your best foot forward right now, showing some strength with Deadpool 2 shows that Fox hasn't fucked everything up yet. So maybe it makes them look a little bit more palatable on the buy-in of the let's make sure this Disney thing really goes through. by showing them the one thing that we've actually struck hot fucking coals with. And seeing Deadpool sooner than later doesn't suck. It's certainly, the first one was a lot of fun. I expect this next one to be a lot of fun. It's introducing some great characters that I'm excited for. It should be great. But I man, as much as I don't have an interest in any more of the Singer X-Men films, I was building an interest for the New Mutants movie. And I'm not pleased that it got pushed back in the way that it did. But in the end, as long as it comes out, man, don't fuck with me.
So in other
part 2.
True. But in other Marvel / comics news, Brian Michael Bendis has finished writing his Miles Morales story. That's one of the new bits of news that came out. That is not what we're going to be talking about, though, because they've been, and I have to say, I have to honestly applaud both sides of this with Marvel and DC for working with Brian Michael Bendis, because he had that health scare earlier this year. So the timetables for him ending at Marvel and coming to DC were a little bit thrown up in the air. But yeah, so it looks like he wrapped up Spider-Man 2. He's finished writing Spider-Man, but we've got news as to what his first thing would be. And I want to point out, some people are saying that he's taking over. I haven't found any articles saying he is taking over the book, but that he's doing a backup story for issue 1000 of Action Comics. He's going to be doing, like I said, he's a backup story, actually one of many I feel like this is DC's approach here with this.
In this story, which is from Screen Rant, it says people have theorized it'll take over for the Man of Steel and Action Comics after the 1000 issue. Yeah. So the 1000 issue will come out, finish off the storyline that I believe is Dan Jurgens is writing the book right now.
Yes, Dan Jurgens is writing right now. With his story is Superman and Booster Gold. Actually, right now they've traveled back in time. Dan Jurgens is one of the creators of Booster Gold. They travel back in time to actually. I'm gonna back up a little bit before with this myself, because Dan Jurgens has been doing a great run on Action Comics. He's been doing since DC Rebirth. He's been doing Action Comics, and the story that he's been telling has been on par with Scott Snyder for the New 52 run of Batman, because it's this long, overarching story, but done in like a Stephen Moffat Doctor Who sort of way, where you're not realizing it's one long, overarching story until now that we're talking about it with number 1000.
Yeah, which is impressive, because Dan Jurgens came in green, had no experience writing Superman or many other comics to begin with.
Yeah.
I'm kidding, because Dan Jurgens famously has written Superman a lot and is one of the people who wrote The Death of Superman in the 90s, among many, many other Superman stories, and is sort of in this era of like, there's all these new creators and the new hot creators and stuff. Dan Jurgens is very old school, and the way that Mark Waid, many would see, is very old school, and being still prominent and still considered fresh, it shows the experience means something. Creators like that still have a lot to offer in comics, and all these young bucks who are not untalented still have to kind of like be compared to these guys like Jurgens or Busiek, or any number of creators who've been around from like the 80s on, and maybe even before that. It's not like it's a competition, but it is hey, this guy has been doing this for 40 years and you've been in it for 5 to 10, show some respect. And I think that they do. And I do see this as a handoff. It would make sense for Jurgens to finish his storyline in 1000, because I'm sure it's going to be an oversized issue, and then start Bendis's run at that same point in time, have him do his short story introduction and lead into what's coming next. Now, I also wonder if it's going to not only lead into what he could conceivably do in Action Comics, but maybe if it introduces another book that he might be doing at the same time, because one of the things that we have been waiting to come back, and we don't know who would be doing it, or it's not even been remotely announced that it's going to happen, is Legion of Superheroes. And it would make sense to bring back Legion in a Superman book, since Legion started out in Superboy many, many years ago. I don't know if that's the case. I'm just really speculating at this point, but I could see it.
So let me give you a little bit of backstory or a little bit more information here on Action Comics number 1000. Like we have Dan Jurgens, that you have him with his main story. And like what I was going to say before, you have one of the backup stories is Brian Michael Bendis, his line, with, I feel like this is how DC does all when they bring in a big name writer. It's, oh, we'll get Jim Lee to draw for him, because they did it with a few other people too, and I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Get the guy who is in charge of the comic book part of things. But then another backup story in here is written by the Superman team of Peter J. Tomasi and Patrick Gleason. And as you were saying, they're going to probably do an oversized issue. Yes, they will be doing one. It will be dubbed Action Comics number 1080 Years of Superman. The tome will be comprised of 300 pages of new and classic content and will carry a price tag of $29.99.
Well, that's not the 1000 issue. That is a hardcover collection.
Yeah.
Comes out at the same time.
Yeah. So, but that's gonna be the 1000th issue as well.
Because that would be
it has so much more
of comic collectors to say, hey, here's your anniversary issue of Superman. It's the number 1000 issue. We're going to charge you $30 for this. No,
so there's it's two separate things. So they're going to have the 1000th issue, but then they're also having the hardcover collection that's going to have a bunch of stuff in it as well that they're going to do for $30. But it is going to be, right now you have, I think there might be another backstory in here too than just the two. I think there might be like 3. But yeah, so but you did hit it on the head with Brian Michael Bendis, because with what we could be getting, which we won't know until issue 1000 comes out, which I think doesn't come out for another couple of weeks or so.
We'll probably see some leaks and stuff going into it. And do we know who's drawing his story? Jim Lee's drawing his story, but we don't know who would be drawing coming out after that.
No,
because he's working on that new hero line at DC with Dan DiDio and all these people that are basically ripping off Marvel characters.
Yeah, but it is really good to see this happen. And it's one of those things, like, this could just be this is his start here at DC. We're going to give him the softballiest of starts, not that he would need here's an easy start for you, but who knows. The next
hopefully they will team him up with Keith Giffen, and so we can just have 30 panels a page, because
actually, okay, who I would like them to team up with him is, because he's been doing work on Young Animal, is his Powers co-creator, Michael Avon Emming.
Yeah, I think
yeah, because he's been doing Cave Carson. I'm sorry, I got confused. I thought I said a specific one. He's been doing Cave Carson, so get them partnered back together.
It seems likely that some of the people that Bendis has worked with before that are already over at DC or have left to come to DC with him, that they're going to do projects and stuff together as well. Not that Michael can't do projects without him, because obviously he can. You just mentioned one. Yeah. But it's nice when you get those team ups, because you have a team and you see something like Powers come out and you go, oh, I wonder what it would be like if these guys did this character over here, or if they did this team over here. So yeah, that's likely. But I think it also gives him an opportunity to work with people that he's never been able to work with because they were DC exclusive before. So yeah, it'll be interesting. And like you, I'm very happy that his health is starting to improve, and that I wouldn't believe for a second that Marvel wouldn't give him the time to recover.
I don't
years of relationship they've had and everything, and just in general, I don't think as much as I may chide Marvel for some of their creative decisions, they're not dicks. No. Not in that regard. Maybe in other ways, but I think that they go, yeah, this guy created Miles Morales, created the Ultimate Universe with us, has worked on almost all of our books, and if we just shit on him at the last 5 minutes, like Jack Kirby, motherfuckers, then we're gonna hear that for the next 30 fucking years. No,
because I think you have what it could have been wrong here. I don't see it being on Marvel. I see it on being on both sides together, because is
this your Donald Trump moment? Obviously there were things done wrong on both sides.
Well, no. Well, let me explain here, and it might be, I don't know. I do talk with my hands quite a bit, but they are a little bit bigger than his, because it's one of those things, like, Marvel could easily go, like you just said, we don't want to shit on him and all that stuff. So yes, we will let him finish his stories, and instead of ending them, so much earlier. But then they have to work with DC in here, because DC's like, okay, well, we want to get you started here on what you have for ideas and stuff. We've already heard your pitches, and we want to get you here on these 4 or 5 books, however many books they want them to start out with. Well, now we got to move those back. That's going to create some turmoil here. So I feel like it was both sides working together so that it can be the smooth transition to where both sides are happy.
I think in that case, though, DC again would not do that. Not just because, because I'm not, I don't believe that they're just total asshats, but also because they're just hired this guy and they don't want to piss him off walking in the door. I'm sure Bendis would always have a carte blanche in at Valiant if he wanted. I don't think the guy's hurting for people who will give him a job, but yeah, just in general, DC's taken pains to be forgiving of illness in the case of, again, Kurt Busiek, who's had several stints where he's been really, really ill and it killed his output entirely, but they've stuck with him and they've supported him and everything. I see these corporations, and they are corporations, and now they're part of bigger and bigger corporations, but I still think there's a lot of people there who give a shit about the people that they work with every day and are not inhuman.
Except for the editors of Inhuman, because
yeah.
But anyways,
those people are just wrong.
Speaking of the of DC, one of the comics that has come out, it's an ElseWords story. Actually, it got partnered up really nice with the fact that we also have Nightwing New Order, or New World Order. It's like these two ElseWorlds stories that break the characters in a nice, interesting way. So you got Nightwing New World Order about, following Nightwing, and there's in a Logan style, there's this big event that happened to where Nightwing had to unleash this doomsday device where everyone with powers, just like the powers are done. Powers are illegal, all this stuff. And hilarity ensues when his son has powers. Ha 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 ha. Oh, and it's all because it's his and Starfire's kid. So it's like Starfire's powers ramped up, and yay, fun adventures. Good story. I'm not knocking it. It's just that's my pitch of how
I had sex with an alien and somehow they had powers.
But the other one is Batman White Knight. And this is for fans of our show. I talked about the creator of this, one of his previous works with Mark Millar with Tokyo Ghost. And this is Sean Gordon Murphy. And he talked about the creative control and future of the series.
So the premise of Batman White Knight it's really cool. So Batman has gone so extreme with his crime fighting. The first issue, you see him chasing the Joker through the streets, taking his Batmobile, which is in the vein of, it's in a similar style to the Batmobile from Batman vs. Superman, or even the Dark Knight trilogy, so where it's more tanky than long car or anything like, it's been in the past. And he's just going through Gotham. Like, there's one point where he's just on rooftops and you see the destruction that is going on behind him. And he's with Batgirl, who's a little bit more like in the Robin role than how she traditionally is. And she's like, and Nightwing, both of them are chasing him going, Batman, stop. They're being the voice of reason. And he's just gung-ho on ending crime in Gotham. That's his whole mindset. So he catches up to Joker and force feeds him pills, trying to overdose him to kill the Joker. This is all in issue 1, by the way. We're halfway through. We're at issue 4, which came out like 2 weeks ago. Instead, what it does is it cures the Joker to where we have Jack Napier. Oh, I was going to say, like a side of bacon?
No, so he's come to, and he's, the Jack Napier side has come to, and he's basically acquitted of all of his crimes because where the Joker's done heinous things, it's nothing that's really warranted jail time, and he's able to sort of talk his way out of the stuff that he's done. Like, I'm talking from the Gotham PD side of things. Like, because a lot of it is, he's like, well, Batman, look what Batman said. Batman just tore down a building to stop the Joker. And he even calls it the Joker like it's another personality. So we go through issues 2, 3, and 4 where Jack Napier has a way to save Gotham. In issue 4, they talk about, to put it in Marvel terms, it's the funding for damage control. Like, it's this like Gotham Batman Destruction Fund. And he goes, what if we take that and put it in with the Gotham Police Force in stopping the vigilantes and the supervillains, but with the police force. And the vigilantes can team up with them. They don't need to know their identities and all this stuff. And it's really cool. It ends with the Joker, essentially, with Jack Napier offering Nightwing and Batgirl their own Batmobiles. But it's really cool. There's the twist, and actually would be the one bit I would love to see them throw into main continuity, and it deals with Harley Quinn, because a lot of people know you have Batman the Animated Series Harley Quinn, and then you have this modern, and I'm leaving out, I'm sort of going around the Jimmy Palmiotti, Amanda Connor, this version of Harley Quinn for the video viewers, and they have, like, you have the Suicide Squad version of Harley Quinn, where, the Margot Robbie played, where it's a little bit more, she dresses a little bit more sexy and all that stuff. In here, two separate Harley Quinns. You have Harleen Quinzel, who was the original, in the suit.
The actual Harlequin suit.
Yeah, the Harlequin suit that you see in the animated series and all that. She leaves, and then you get this origin story for the other Harley, who is the nympho, sex-crazed, Stockholm Syndrome victim here. That's just was a really cool, like, I'm like, all right, this is a great concept here for this. But this is not an ElseNews or an ElseViews topic. I brought this up because of the fact that in the original scripts, it called for swearing, like actual swearing, not just the comic book symbols covering up the swear words. And it also called for a sex scene between Batman and Harley Quinn. That's the only censoring that DC did. And people were I think Sean Murphy was a little worried that DC was going to censor a lot more. But he basically did like an AMA on Twitter where he says that he mostly collects European comics where nudity isn't a big deal. So he envisioned Batman White Knight in that way, hoping it would be okay. But DC has the right to control their content, because basically that's all they took out was you do the traditional comic book censoring of swearing, and then you censor the nudity, which he did, which brought up a lot of people wanting to release a director's cut. And he even brought up the point, like I mentioned before the show, of going, well, what about the people who are buying the single issues every week? If we were to release a new, or announce that we were releasing a collector's edition director's cut of the book that has more pages, where it's one thing to take out the substitute words in for the symbols, but to put in the sex scene or scenes maybe would be something else entirely.
I'm 46 years old. I'm married. I live in an age where if you want nudity, dear God, it's real easy to find it. I am not a person who finds any of that interesting. Now, at the same time, I don't object to comics like Heavy Metal or 2000 AD or any number of things that I've always been mature readers or adult readership. When I was a kid, I accidentally bought a Dracula comic that was an old black and white thing that I think might have been published by Marvel's publishing house, but was definitely not for kids. And we didn't realize it when I bought it. And all of a sudden I'm staring at boobs in there. And at that point, I'm like, holy crap, there's boobs in my comic. And then eventually I had to say, like, Dad, I don't know if this was meant for me. But I don't object to stories like this being told. The rougher part of it, and we talked about this a little bit back in the days of when Deadpool was coming out, is that you have an expectation that there are comics that feature Batman that are meant to be not necessarily all ages, but meant to be of a certain age group and above. And when it gets complicated is when you have a kid come into a store and saying, my mom lets me buy Batman comics all the time, so it's okay for me to buy this Batman comic. No, that one's not okay. And it's not like we haven't had mature stuff. I mean, The Dark Knight Returns is a mature story, and it's mature in theme as much as anything else. It's certainly more violent than what other Batman books were doing at the time. And over the years, I think the DC universe has done everything it can to match that. I get it. I get why some people are into this. It's just, it's not interesting to me if that's like the director's cut is, oh, we get to see a sex scene between Batman and Harley. And I'm just so sick of, like, let's throw Harley on everybody's dick. Bruce Timm fucking does it in the animated film. I'm like, see ya. But it's their characters, it's their right. I'm not the guy who's clamoring for that. But I do understand and appreciate Murphy's thought process of DC's giving me not exactly carte blanche, but giving me very little impact on the way that I want to tell this story. I'm telling it the way that I want to tell it. And other than a couple of things here or there that make sense for their business, they're pretty much hands off. I appreciate that because you want the creators to have the ability to tell a story in the way they want to tell it. You still have to protect your trademarks, your stable of characters. You have to say, hey, when you're done telling this Batman story, we still have a bunch more years of telling Batman stories that we have to kind of keep in line. You can't fuck this up for everybody who's coming before you and after you. But for the most part, yeah, you say, sure, come in, tell the best story you can. You know, we'll fiddle with the things that only absolutely have to be fiddled with, but for the most part, we're trusting you to tell a good tale. And so I think that's great, which is fine. I'm not into it, but I get it.
And that's understandable. And I think it's like you look at Sean Gordon Murphy, he comes from the creator-owned side of things a lot more. So he was worried himself with this when he originally pitched them the idea, or they got, however it came about, that they were going to cut back a lot more because, you know, with the changing of the timeline, there's specific stuff about the death of Jason Todd that they tweak further, that I would have to reread to catch because I think I've missed that part, or it's coming up.
It's not really weird because, like you said, it's an Elseworld story, right?
Yeah, but even then, it's sort of like one of those things that there are some things that he felt like that it wouldn't, like that would still be a same thing. It's, I don't know.
I can totally understand because, you know, you go into your job and you say, hey, I've got this really great idea. We're making this Han Solo movie, and you get 50% into it, and then somebody comes down and says, the fuck you doing? And you're just like, dude, did you not read the fucking notes? I gave you a spreadsheet and shit. So yeah, I totally, it should never be, and I don't have a lot of professional experience with comics, just a smidge, the barest amuse-bouche of making comics, but it should never be a surprise to an editor what the fuck you're doing on a book at a company of this level. You know, if you're in, you know, I wouldn't even say in fucking Bongo Comics or Boom or anything, or Fantagraphics, I think that you should have some sort of expectation of like, yeah, they're reading this with a somewhat fine-tooth comb to see, is this the right thing for us to even be funding? So yeah, I think you go, yeah, I'm writing about the Joker and I'm writing about Batman. Batman's gone off the fucking rails. We're okay with it, right? Yeah, you know, sure. Yep, okay, cool. Write that down. And there's two Harley Quinns. There's two Harley Quinns now. So this will keep people who are purists, Harley Quinn purists, from getting all pissed off because the other one, I'm going to just make an outright gutter slut, which is a word Matt taught me. I know. And believe me, I don't have any problems with the character exploring their sexuality, female, male, whatever. That's all great. Again, I don't dig it, but sure, you know that. So yeah, you've got real pure Harley, and you've got modern Harley likes to spank it, and that's all okay. So again, editors fine with that. I don't think you get 4 issues in and be like, wow, I can't believe they're letting me do this. Have you been getting checks? You've been cutting the checks every month? I feel like if you got your pay, then you know they're all right with it. Hold on. Unless everybody's just like turning their heads and coughing as you walk past, it just whistling nonchalantly, saying, "Hope the people above me don't see this shit."
You're misinterpreting timeline here. It's not. He's 4 issues in, and holy shit, they're letting me get away with it. This is as he's writing the issue 1, and he has the layout for the whole 8-issue run of this first series, expecting a lot more that they're wanting to. Like he's answering questions. Like the question was, how much did DC interfere with White Knight? And he came back, hardly none. I essentially have full creative control. I only had to edit for swearing and nudity. So basically meaning he has to do the comic book version of swearing with the symbols, and then creative cuts for the nudity, essentially.
All right, that's fine.
And the nudity part, he's like the people had mentioned up after that, like, well, is there going to be a director's cut where we get, or another version? And he had said maybe if DC will allow it. Like, say,
I assume that they'll just stamp right on the cover Snyder cut, because that's what everybody, that will sell like fucking hotcakes to 12 people.
And then the other side of things is someone asked, do you have plans for volume 2? Because People are loving this. I'm loving this story, and because it is an interesting tale of because I talk very poetically about Batman and Joker, how they are yin and yang to each other, and it's like what happens when those are flipped on where Joker is the good and Batman is the evil, as it's just happening. We're right here at that, just past the intersection of them both being good and evil. And so he's like, yeah, I have plans for both volume 2 and 3. And I'm like, I read that and I'm like, sweet. That's like more White Knight coming up here.
There you go.
But yeah. And then the final bit of news is that Blue Ribbon Content has set up a Conan O'Brien comedy and a Critters adaptation as Go 90 series. Now, Go 90, for those of you who do not know, because you live outside of America or you've never even heard of it, is Verizon's digital TV thingy that they put with their phones.
As two people who are in America, we're like, I don't fucking know what Go 90 is.
Yeah.
I don't understand how this shit even fucking exists. But now I have to.
You'll probably notice it because it's one of those apps that's installed on your phone when you get a new phone at Verizon. All right, and you open it like one time and then you close it. But anyways, the first one is a live action comedy, Golden Revenge, from Conan O'Brien's Conoco LLC. And the other one is Critters, A New Binge, a series adaptation of the cult classic feature film. Both of them are live action. And basically, real quick, Golden Revenge follows 3 pets out to get even with the people who left them for dead in a heartwarming animal tale that quickly turns into a quest for bloody vengeance. Tom Stern will direct, in addition to co-writing with Josh Gardner, and they will both serve as executive producers. Now, Critters, this is one that, because Beat picked this for you, essentially. So explain Critters to people.
All right, Critters was a series of movies, started out in the 80s and had 4 films. I haven't seen all of them. I've only seen the first 2, but they kind of continue on. These alien creatures escape to Earth. They're all little furball bastards. It's kind of like Gremlins, except maybe even more violent. And people, I think, forget how violent the first Gremlins was. But they have these pins. They look like sort of little bowling ball porcupines, and they shoot these spikes out of their necks, and the spikes will drug a person. And then they just eat everything. They just eat things to shit. And these alien bounty hunters follow them down to destroy them. So the critters are out there wreaking havoc, and the alien bounty hunters, who don't really know much about Earth, are kind of fucking shit up too. And it's a fun series. It ended, I think the 4th one actually has Leonardo DiCaprio in it. So I'm excited to get through the rest of it. We did the first movie on Pot not too far into our starting the show, and we keep threatening to get back to the rest of the series. I own all of them. So this is a return of the story, and it's written as in the critters return to Earth to search for one of their kin. So it sounds like it's a continuation. And that was part of the thing that I liked about Critters, is that at least from the first movie to the second movie, there are characters that come back. It follows the story of some of these, the bounty hunters in particular, but some of the family and stuff from the first one. The kid who, not kid anymore, but the kid from the first Critters is played by the same guy who does Steve Smith's, and is on the Orville now. He's and went on to be an ER, I think, too.
Yeah, isn't he the redhead?
Yeah. So he was in Critters way back when. I love the movies. They're very funny, tongue-in-cheek humor with the over-the-top violence and weirdness of alien creatures and stuff. And they speak alien language, and sometimes you'll see them swear, and it doesn't get covered over because DC had no involvement in it. And it's just, they're a good old time. So I'm looking forward to this in the way that I hope it's good. I don't know how much I expect from it, but Critters weren't like big hit movies. But it could go the same way as like the Tremors TV series or the Tremors movies did, and that would be fine with me. I'm glad that the property's still getting some attention.
So to give some stats here for it, Jordan Rubin, John Kaplan, and Al Kaplan will write and executive produce. Jordan Rubin will also be directing. Rupert Harvey and Barry Opper from the original Critters film franchise are producing, and the series is produced by Abominable Pictures in association with Blue Ribbon Content for Verizon. This is expanding their Verizon and Blue Ribbon Content's relationship, because they started with the show Now We're Talking, which was a live action sports themed comedy, and that was renewed for a second season. And then there's also the original digital feature Good Girls Get High, that was an Alloy Entertainment production, or which will premiere on the streaming video service later this year. But yeah, so I mean, this is really cool. I just think, new ways of content getting out there is great. That's ultimately what I think things are going to go to.
Yeah, but questions that still need to be answered are, what does this service cost? Is it only available to Verizon subscribers? Is it only available on Verizon devices? Can I get to this through my Roku? Is my question.
So to answer some of those questions, I believe it is free. It is like free ad support deal. It's pre-installed on Verizon, where I think you might get the commercial free version, and I could be remembering completely wrong. But it is just a regular app you download from iTunes or the Google Play Store, or the Amazon. But you wherever the app store you go to is at. And I forgot your last one, but I don't know.
Looking to see if they'll put out a Roku channel so I can actually watch it on my television without having to stream through like a Chromecast or something. And I don't see that so far when I look it up. It looks like it's been requested, but hasn't happened yet. And so at that point in time, it's about the same as when Community went over to Yahoo, except Yahoo actually had a Roku channel. Mm-hmm. It just didn't work very well when I tried to watch their space show. And that's the tough part, is you make a show and you put it in a place where people aren't even going to know to look to find it. Is it setting you up for failure? Is having Conan O'Brien be involved going to promote this thing in a better way than it has been? Because like I said, I've heard Go 90 because I'm a person who looks at weird channels and stuff, but I don't have much familiarity with it beyond the name and that it's associated with Verizon, because I haven't had any reason to go look. And I have a Verizon phone. It's something that's available to me, but it's
looking through this, it's like they've got some good content on here, different channels and all that.
Yeah, but remember Powers was on the PlayStation.
Okay, but see, here's the difference though, is that it was like Powers was trying to start it. Like they were, what you're referring to, it was them starting with original content. With this, a lot of it is digital stuff, using YouTubers and stuff like that. But then you also get ESPN. It has stuff on here. You can watch every episode of Veronica Mars. So, if you're one of those people who likes to binge watch shows that you were watching before, you can do that again.
I would say yes to that, except I think I actually own all of Veronica Mars.
Yeah. Well, but see, here's the thing. My friend owns all of Smallville on DVD. When it came to Hulu, they started rewatching it again, and I'm like,
right, because it's right there. It's convenient. It's in a service with a bunch of other content. Yeah. That's my thing. There's something about put it in front of me and I'll watch it. If I have to go spelunking to find your fucking channel and a way to get it into where I would want to watch things, that makes it tough and it makes it less enticing. Yes, Critters is something that I will try to get to. That is the selling point for me as the weirdo horror movie fan that I am, and with a specific taste in horror movies. And my wife likes Critters too, so for us that will be important.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, it will suffer in obscurity because it's not on Hulu and it's not on Netflix or Amazon. It's something that it's too many hoops.
But I think part of this though is also a little bit of a generation thing. Because, like I said, a lot of this is geared towards the younger people.
Geared towards younger people again. Geared towards younger people. Here's a franchise that was hip in the 80s, kids. That's.
But I'm talking about all this. Like
Conan O'Brien, he knows how to talk to the youth.
but what I'm saying here is, like, from looking through their content, this is obviously not geared for people who will be sitting in their chairs watching the TV with it. It is geared for people who are sitting on the train or on the bus going about around town
and
watching it that way.
It is a drowning property because what those kids watch can be from anywhere, and they have so much wealth of options in that case between YouTube and Vimeo and just fucking people masturbating on websites. Whatever the fuck you want is out there already. So, like, what says, but today I have to check out this show about pets who are so angry that it sounds like they're pissing on people. Is that what the show is about? Are they so mad that because it's called Golden something? Maybe that's a better retriever. I don't know. That messy. Just sounds messy. Like, I'll watch a movie about monkeys flinging their crap at people because, I know what's hilarious, but pissing, it's not like I'm running for president and I'm hanging out in Russia. So you got to have standards.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of standards, we have none. That's why I'm going to shamelessly plug how you could support us. You can do that by going over to gncasts.com/support. And on there, you will find a link to our Patreon page. It is basically direct funding. Patreon takes a cut of it, but whatever. They got to eat too. But it'll take you over to patreon.com/galacticnetcasts, where you could support us for as little as $1 a month. We're not doing a per post thing or per episode, or we're not. It's just a monthly charge. So you can donate as little as $1, as much as you want, and help us out. gncast.com/support. And it is on to the ElseViews. This is the portion of the show where we talk about the TV shows that we have been watching over the past week. I say TV shows because Corey doesn't have anything, and I'm going to talk about 2 TV shows. You didn't come up with anything last minute, did you?
No, you know what? I'm gonna go something really quick. I have fallen down, as we were talking, YouTube holes, and one of the things that I've been introduced to lately, I'm finding some new bands. I'm finding some hip tunes, and there's this band that I discovered just recently named Charlie Bliss, and Charlie Bliss seems like a 90s band. They're very evocative. A lot of people compare them to Weezer, and there's certainly guitar sounds and stuff in there that reminds me of Weezer. But because of their singer, I believe her name is Eve or Eva, very much reminds me of Letters to Cleo, which I know me and Ben from Parks and Rec are the only people who know who the fuck Letters to Cleo is anymore. But I really dig their sound. They've got album out called Guppy, and they had an EP out before that. The EP is cute because there were 3 songs, and if you check out their videos, it tells a whole story of this kind of nerdy guy who's trying to win the affections of this girl who's played by the singer away from her dirty scuzz boyfriend, and it goes through the storyline in the 3 songs / videos. But the rest of their stuff, they've got a few releases for the new album, and it's all just really fun. It's kind of like alternative pop sound with heavier grunge sensibilities into it. It is very, very 90s music. If you liked that kind of stuff from before, and you're like, man, I've heard Pinkerton. Is that even the name of a fucking album? So many times. Then can I get something else? Can I get more than just Aurora Borealis? Yeah, you can. There's new bands that are still doing that aesthetic and making great stuff. Another thing they did, which I absolutely love, and I will suggest that you go search for it, is they did a live performance of the entire soundtrack for Josie and the Pussycats, which the music for Josie and the Pussycats, every time Josie was singing, they used the voice of Kay Hanley, who is the singer from Letters to Cleo. So they know their aesthetic. They know what they sound like. And so you get the whole band is up on stage and all dressed up as the Pussycats performing, and they do the whole album. And all these kids are sitting there listening like, hey, this is a good song. What is this? And someone's got to say, oh, it's from the Josie and the Pussycats soundtrack, which had Rosario Dawson and Tara Reid of all fucking people, and is great. Again, I had that soundtrack because I really like Kay Hanley and Letters to Cleo, but it was just good, kind of like poppy music. It was kind of similar to Spice World in a lot of ways. I think it actually predated Spice World. Very fun band, great sound, great aesthetic, very talented. I've been enjoying the hell out of them. So that's it. Go check them out.
Yeah, Spice World came out in 97. Josie and the Pussycats came out in 2001.
Oh, I was way off.
Yeah, just by like 5 years.
But it was a bad 5 years in general.
Yeah, but Corey, I'm going to ask you this. Do you watch the TV show Blackish?
I do.
Okay.
I've gone more into it as it's gone along. Mm-hmm. I think I didn't expect to like it as much as I do. And I think the kids in that show are extremely talented.
Oh, yeah.
And I like Anthony Anderson a lot. I am kind of in love with the one who plays his wife, Bo, who is Diana Ross's daughter. She is terrific. Lawrence Fishburne as the grandfather and everything. So good. The more that I tune into it, and I don't want to get overwhelmed with a bunch of sitcom stuff and everything and ABC shows, but I keep jumping into that one. I keep going back and yeah, man, Blackish is really good. Really good.
Oh, yeah. and it's one of these things that like they did for the premiere for this season. They did a Hamilton-esque episode where it was a musical, and
Nice.
they've done all these different things that I'm like, all right, this is really cool. This is really good at what they're doing here. And Larry Wilmore is I believe a consulting producer for Blackish. And the first show I'm going to be talking about, the oldest Zoe has her own spinoff. This is called Grownish. It's created by Kenya Barris, who created Blackish, and this follows Zoe, like I said, the oldest daughter in college.
It's the different world to Blackish's.
Yes.
I don't want to say the Cosby Show, but it is a Cosby Show, which
Yes.
in its time was a great show. Just in hindsight, we have some problems.
Yeah. Anyways, getting past that. So the cool thing with this is it features a lot of people that we've seen before. I say a lot. It's really three from the Blackish world. So you have Dion Cole, who plays Charlie, doing a double duty. He is on both shows now, like full on series regular, both shows. I don't think he's series regular on Blackish, but he's used to where he's almost like they might as well just bill him series regular. But you have the actress who plays Zoe stepping down a little bit from Blackish because they wrote her off into college now. And then you have the love interest from when she was doing the college tour in here as well. This show is really good. It's a good growing up as well, because this is done by one of the production companies, the same production company that's doing Marvel's Runaways, and actually all the ABC properties that don't air on ABC Network. And I'm blanking on it. It's like ABC Signature Studios, I believe is what it's called. And part of what this means with it being on Freeform is you hear Zoe swear. You hear these people actually swear. And that took me aback for a second, because I'm like, all right, this is a spinoff. I'm expecting, a similar thing. They've done enough to change the styles. So it's still being told through, like you have the narrator, like you have with Andre Johnson on Blackish, but it's Zoe. And instead of just the voiceover thing, it's actually, she pulls a Ferris Bueller or a Zach Morris and actually speaks to the camera and stuff like that for good effect. It's not just like time out and talk to us. It's they've aired 3 episodes. The second episode, she's crushing bad on the love interest Aaron, and you hear him, you see him talking to her, and he invites the group, but she thinks it's just her, to pizza after this this art gallery thing. And you see her go, like, as she's like this getting the reaction shot, and you just see her go, look to camera, like, you heard that, right? It's all stuff that adds a little bit of humor, but it doesn't take away from the story. And it's really good. Also really funny with how they're doing all this stuff. There will be some comparisons to, like, what was the Cosby Show spinoff, Brave New World? Or A Different World. There will be some of those, which you take apart the Bill Cosby doing the things that he did outside of the show aspect of it. I think that's a good comparison.
Yeah, well, it shows the young character growing up. It touches on a different audience. It touches on different themes than what you get in a family style sitcom, to especially life right now, being a young person of color in America. It's a really challenging time. And while they could go into that in Blackish, and they obviously do, the Trump election episode was a very, very good example.
Yeah.
This approaches it from the youth perspective, because I think as adults, we're inherently cynical.
Mm-hmm.
And that cynicism is funny and has its place, absolutely. But I think the young still can approach things with more hope and can look at the impact that they can make change in the world. At this point in my life, I want to be someone who helps affect things to be better going forward for, the youth of tomorrow and everything. But I think the youth of tomorrow has much more power in that than I do, and have much more time to. They have the long game and I have the short game. Even if we're both playing for the same team and we're on the same side looking for the same results, I can't do as much as they're going to be able to do. And unfortunately, I've been kind of conditioned to think like many people have, that what kind of impact can I really make? But when we see change happen, it seems to happen because of the young. It's the young getting out and voting. When that isn't always the case, it's when they do, holy shit, it seemed like the vote just flipped in a way that people didn't expect. It's because they cared, because we enticed them into caring about this, and they did this. When they don't, when they stay home, that's when things kind of continue down the bad course. So it allows for different stories. It allows for different viewpoints and a different tone, it sounds like. And I think that's very exciting. I hope what happened with A Different World doesn't happen with this show, which is, in A Different World, Lisa Bonet left really fast. Mm-hmm. I think she was only in the first season, and then she disappeared, and it became a show about all these other people, had nothing really to do with the Cosby Show at all, because she was young and she decided to do some other stuff, and she didn't really want to be associated with the show anymore. I don't know all the ins and outs of why. We also lost Marissa Tomei, who I discovered on that show, and obviously went to great things after that. But it's like, man, that was a big change. And suddenly Whitley was the character that we were supposed to root for, when she was the foil to Denise in the first season. So it was a weird shift. But it's kind of like going from Scrubs to the final season of Scrubs, where it's all about the student doctors.
Yeah. Here's sort of the other part. I'll like to expand on the difference between Grownish and Blackish, because you are right where they're able to focus in on it, like the Trump election special, where actually with any of the issues, it's hard because you're going through the eyes, of the dad, and then you get the B and C plots through, and even the D plots through the other members of the family. So it's, there are weeks where, and even I think early on, half a season where you didn't hear anything from Zoe. And I'm like, what the heck? I mean, you have this, where is she at? You're just missing this one character. So to do this, it's there. Like you said, the stories are going to more focus in on this specific section. And I mean, I could even see them possibly going a similar route with Junior in a couple years when his character graduates, and then he comes into Grownish, possibly as well. It's interesting because you're going from one ensemble to another, where one ensemble, it's this diverse in age, to Grownish, where it's diverse in backgrounds. The first episode, so Charlie, he's an adjunct professor teaching this class, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like it's one of those things, like because I'm right here at this border, like it's like the Britney Spears song, I'm not a girl, not yet a woman, sort of thing. Like, I'm a little too old to be in with that crowd, but I'm too young to be in the Grownish or the Blackish crowd, where I'm the parents and all that. It's like, I'm like right here in the middle, and I'm like, wait, is that an actual course where it's like a marketing thing and drones, and then it's a midnight class, and they got to go through talking about, like, saying why they picked this class. This is all the pilot. And then they all give their different stories, like all 6 of them give their stories as to what was happening. And it's where you get the different backgrounds of one of her best friend, like, quickly becomes a best friend in here. She's a Jewish lesbian who missed signing. Basically, all of them missed signing up for other classes, but she got distracted by a pretty woman, and then they started making out, and then they all end with like the magistrate or the admissions room door shutting down. Another one it's twins who are track stars, like they're on a scholarship and all that stuff, and they have this front that they got to put up and creates funny jokes later on. They miss it because of a weird reason. And then there's an Indian guy student in here, and he missed for all these other reasons. I'm trying to keep it vague because partially I forgot some of it, but also it's like, I don't want to spoil what I remembered. I mean, you're seeing all this, and it's like, okay, we're getting a more diverse story here. It's not just, all right, they're all black, they all have these issues, like that Netflix show. Well, it's also
not centered on a family.
No, yeah, true. It's not centered on a family. Like I was mentioning, it's not like the Dear White People show on Netflix, where it's like still a comedy, but it's like, here's why we're right and you're wrong aspect. It's here are our problems that we have. Let's go through it while our teacher is playing with a drone, because Dion Cole is hilarious in that regard. The other show, which I actually watched a week before it aired, thanks to the winter premiere on Hulu, because Freeform, formerly ABC Family, has a big partnership with Hulu. Like, they don't advertise their website at all when it comes to watching on-demand videos. It's like they advertise their app, and then it's Hulu. And the other one is called Alone Together. Now, for fans of At Midnight, you might remember the comedian Little Esther on there.
Yeah, I remember Esther.
Esther P. I'll just go with P because that's the initial for her last name, because it's that right there, what you just said. She was also on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend this past season, but she's starring in this show called Alone Together. And I'm going to look up, see if it is created by her, because it seems very autobiographical.
Yeah, almost like one of the co-creators. So is Benji Flello, who is the other star of the show. Yeah. And it seems like they're hitting on a lot of the stuff that they go through. It's also executive produced by The Lonely Island, by Andy Samberg, Akiva Schaeffer, and Jorma Taccone. And basically you have their two young people in Hollywood who don't fit the norm of, being beautiful and all this stuff. And they're really young. And so they're just like best friends. And it sort of backfires because people think they're dating or they're married, but they're just that level of friends where you could pick on each other, like almost like brother and sister in that way. Really hilarious. Oh God, there was someone in the pilot that I'm like, oh, that's cool. They got him to be in the pilot as Benji's older brother. And I'm sitting here going, okay, this is great. I love seeing this. Ginger Gonzaga's in here as Benji's sister. But I mean, it's, again, really funny. I'm loving the show just because of the fact that, it just seems like we're hitting. Chris D'Elia is his brother, his older brother. Like, they're staying at his house and all this stuff, and they have this party. I'm sitting here, I'm watching this, and I'm like, man, this would be me, except it'd be because I'm like bigger than everyone else, and not in the muscular way. But it's one of those shows that I relate to way too easily. I highly recommend them both. They both air here in the States, they air on Freeform on Wednesday at 9 p.m., I believe. 9 and 9:30. It's Grownish than Alone Together. And I honestly say check them both out. These are strong mid-season premieres. Granted, it's Freeform, so it would be the half-season, 8 episode in the spring, then 8 episodes in the fall, then 8 in the spring, 8 in fall sort of deal that they do with all their shows. But I honestly really like this. I like both these shows. I think they're great. Getting away from the whole hour-long Freeform thing that they've had going on since it was ABC Family. So the ElseWords is a Black Widow movie is gaining traction over at Marvel. We joked about it last week with Red Sparrow, and we were talking about this before the show, that Jack Schaeffer is writing the script, and she's an up-and-coming writer who broke out with her Blacklist script. And this is not the TV show Blacklist. This is the Hollywood list of movies or scripts that are really good but haven't been made into movies, for a script called The Shower, which is a comedy about an alien invasion during a baby shower. And it caught the eye of Anne Hathaway. She's the writer of the upcoming movie Nasty Women, that is a remake of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Oh, yeah. But gender bent, which I'm sure the internet is just going to love, that they took a beloved movie that started 2 dudes and then put 2 women in the roles. But I was trying to figure out, because I don't know her work. She is, unfortunately, probably right now most well known for being the screenwriter for Olaf's Frozen Adventure, which is the Frozen short, and by short I mean way too fucking long, movie that they put in front of the recent Pixar movie Coco, that all the kids screamed and got pissed off about, because they were there to see one movie and this other thing started up and wouldn't shut up for 25 minutes. And so Disney had to apologize and remove it from the fucking front of the film. Not her fault. It's not a comment on the quality of the movie. It's just kids got a goddamn short attention span. Don't give them a half hour before it starts to what they actually came there to see. That's dumb shit. Kids have to pee. All that said, so she's been announced as putting together a story for a Black Widow movie. It's not greenlit. It's not a sure thing. It is what I like to call vaporware in the superhero film universe until it's not. But it's a step. It's a step in the right direction. Now, this says a couple of things. One is fucking finally, Marvel. But two is that means that we can get a Black Widow movie potentially after Avengers 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a statement in and of itself of, now it could be a prequel. It could be something that happens inside of those stories. It could be something before Captain Marvel, we know, is going to take us into the past. I've heard rumor that Avengers 3 and 4 may actually be in some ways a time travel movie. I don't know how true that is. I think there's a lot of people like us who speculate on this stuff and just kind of throw shit on the internet and see what happens. Because if one bit of it is right at the end, I get to say I fucking told you so. It's still kind of a big deal, while it won't be the first female-led Marvel movie, presumably because I think we've got a date set for when Captain Marvel is supposed to come out.
And it's filming right now.
Yeah, and people have been clamoring for, well, you know, fucking New Mutants was pretty much done, wasn't it? And now enjoy your 10-month wait. They're just slow cooking it. It's good because people have been wondering why the hell there hasn't been a Black Widow film, or why there hasn't been, at the very least, a Black Widow Hawkeye movie, because those characters have only existed in other people's films and the Avengers films. And they both, to me, seem compelling enough to get something. You know, I would have preferred a Hawkeye Netflix series and a Black Widow film, or both of them, but it seemed like Hawkeye would have been, we could have gotten Jeremy Renner for a made for Netflix thing, but Scarlett Johansson belongs up on the big screen at this point. I think she's definitely shown that's her wheelhouse.
Now, what about to get on with the movie things, and I want to sort of correct some things that people thought about the whole Olaf Frozen adventure. What about much like in the comics with them doing for Marvel Legacy, they're doing the Tales of Suspense, which is Hawkeye and Winter Soldier with Black Widow. What if it's those three, or even Black Widow, Winter Soldier? Because they've palled around in the comic books.
They absolutely have, and Winter Soldier seems to have some story that finally goes away from Steve, you know. But yeah, we all have our one true pairings. but seeing him be a part of the Black Panther movie, you know, that there's potential there. Although when you watch the Black Panther trailer, very little of it has anything to do with the Winter Soldier. He may just be like cameo in what otherwise looks like just the most remarkable film.
Basically, he just came up because he's Han Solo frozen in carbonite in the background in the Black Panther lair, as you just see, you know, he's just like,
yeah, exactly. Can someone put a blanket over my toe? My toe's cold.
He's in there just thinking, my nose has itched for 3 months.
Left testicle, please. No, not with the gloves on. God damn it, T'Challa. Yeah, and in the comics, they had a really good relationship between her and the Winter Soldier / Bucky when he was Cap for a period of time.
Yeah,
they really played with that, and they kind of sidestepped that in the movies because she had a history of being attacked by him before, but she doesn't at least let on that she has any interpersonal relationship with them. She treats it like, oh, we don't know who he is.
Yeah,
but it's possible because it's Tasha that she knows who he is. I think that's great. At the same time, another part of this, it's not the same story, but it kind of comes from the same place, which is Fox has picked Tim Miller to do, or to develop at least at this point, a Kitty Pryde movie, which would be great if it came out well before Gambit.
Yeah.
And this would be Fox's first female lead superhero film between their X-Men movies and their Fantastic Four movies, which don't count because who watches those?
Yeah.
Now, Kitty Pryde played most famously by, please tell me her name because I'm just now suddenly blanking.
Ellen Page, and she's the only one to play Kitty Pryde.
Dear sir, she is not. Kitty Pryde has been played by 3 different actresses because Kitty Pryde has a cameo in the first X-Men movie. She phases through the door in Xavier's office. Then she's played by another actress, a younger actress, in the second movie where she phases through the bed when Stryker's team comes into the X-Mansion to start pulling everybody out. And then they bring Ellen Page in to actually give her legitimate gravitas in the role in The Last Stand, or what I like to call the worst movie. Although Age of Apocalypse is bad. And then they completely change what the character is when they bring Ellen Page back for Days of Future Past. Anyways, I don't imagine at this point that Ellen Page is coming back to play the character. It's probably going to be everything that you know about it. We fucked up all of our continuity, so it doesn't matter. A lot of people are saying because when Kitty Pryde was introduced in the X-Men comics, she was 13 years old. Wouldn't it be great to get Millie Bobby Brown to play her? I think that she could be excellent in it. I have to wonder what the movie is, especially because we're looking at the potential for a spinoff of Logan with X-23, who is around that age range herself, or would be if that movie ever gets announced. Is this their version of what the expectation of Joss doing Batgirl is? What would this be? But it's still, again, it's the first announced movie of a single female character at a time where after Wonder Woman, it seems like this, again, was a long time coming. And as many people probably already know, because I've said it enough, Kitty Pryde is one of my 2 all-time favorite comic book characters, period.
Yeah.
So I have potential in the next couple of years to see a movie starring 2 of my 2 favorite characters. There's a Nightwing movie that's supposed to be coming out. There's also Dick Grayson is supposed to be part of the Titans TV series. And then a Kitty Pryde movie potentially coming out. I am hesitantly jazzed because it's way too early to know what any of these things really equal out to.
Yeah.
But also with Kitty Pryde, we could have a spin out or spin in with the New Mutants films, because when New Mutants were introduced, it was age appropriate for Kitty Pryde to go and be a part of the New Mutants. And that was the first thing that happened, is once the X-Men all came back to Earth and they met up with Xavier is like, hey, Kitty Pryde, you're off the X-Men team. You're going over to New Mutants now. And it was the famous shot of you open up the page and Paul Smith had drawn Kitty Pryde pointing at the viewer and saying, Professor Xavier is a jerk, which is like one of those things that's just beat into my head from being a kid. And she didn't. She kept calling them X-babies. That was the thing, is that she never was very respectful to the New Mutants, even though her best friend was part of the team, Ileana. So I really want this to happen, but I want it to happen the right way, and I can't say what I think the right way is. I just want it to be a good movie, and Fox in their stuff has been more miss for me than hit. Even the stuff that I like, I kind of don't want to watch anymore because the X-Men films themselves just got so fucked up along the way that I can't retain any interest in it. Mm-hmm. So other than Deadpool and what the potential is for New Mutants, like I didn't love Logan. I appreciated Logan. I thought it was a quality film. It didn't really interest me, but Wolverine has never really interested me that much anyways. But I can see that there's a quality step up in that from what Singer has been doing, but it's just, oh man, it could be great. It could be great. And Tim Miller doing it gives me a little bit more hope. I need to kind of know why. Why did he choose Kitty Pryde? Why is this a project that he thinks he wants to do? What is his vision for the character? What is the story that he's going to put the character in? What is her relationship to the X-Men at this point? What year does it happen in? Because all the history is way fucked. Does it have anything to do with New Mutants or not? Who knows?
Yeah. So real quick before we wrap up, I want to clarify some things with the Olaf Rosen adventure. To go back to the first story.
You're really hooked on Olaf, aren't you?
No, because people think that because they clamored about the fact that they were doing this, that Disney pulled it. It did its run. It was only going to be like the first 2 weeks for Coco, then be pulled to later be broadcast on television,
which it was
during Christmas, which it was.
And I remember trying to watch it and going, I don't know what the fuck is happening.
Yeah,
I've never seen Frozen though.
Yeah, that's probably going to be part of the reason why. But anyways, so people think it's like, oh, because we clamored. No, it was Disney. That was their intention.
But the internet won. Don't you understand? The internet won. We beat the system.
I can call my shot after
Don't you know that The Last Jedi was obviously a piece of shit, yet the most successful movie, yet horrible, yet everything I ever wanted to see? The internet won.
Actually, no, I don't, because I haven't seen The Last Jedi yet.
You don't have to see it to have an opinion. It's the internet. it's why we're here.
Corey, do me a favor. Lift up your right arm. Does it say bicep on it? Like the GoDaddy commercials?
I don't know the GoDaddy commercials.
It's the commercials for GoDaddy. They have this guy who goes, "I'm the internet," and he's like supposed to be the internet personified. Like he has tattoos. Like one on one of his arms it says bicep. I think on the other arm it has the shrugging.
Oops.
Yeah.
Okay.
And stuff like that. And he's just like he's driving one of the commercials. He's driving on in his car with "Never Gonna Give You Up."
Oh, he's a human meme.
Yeah. No, he's the internet.
Okay.
But yeah, I say all that just to say, like with both of these, I am excited to see them when they come out. I mean, you're hitting a lot of things with the Kitty Pryde movie that do go on in my head, but I'm like also ever the optimist where I'm like, just make it good. I don't really care when it takes place. Just make a good movie. Don't, because Kitty Pryde is one of my favorite characters as well.
And the thing is that as much as I love Kitty Pryde, she's always been successful as part of a team, or part of a team up. The Kitty Pryde and Wolverine miniseries from the 80s, I've not seen her character do a lot of stuff on her own. I don't know what stories they would pull from to tell a quote unquote Kitty Pryde movie versus an X-Men movie where Kitty Pryde is a part of that, or an Excalibur movie where Kitty Pryde is a part of that. That's the thing is, I love the character, but some characters are better as a group because they complement each other. And if you have Kitty Pryde and you just give her an arbitrary team of mutants, then why isn't it Excalibur? Or why isn't it X-Men? Or why isn't it X-Babies or whatever else?
Yeah. The other thing I would say that I would add as a hope is because of the whole Fox Disney deal, that whatever they do with this, it is left open enough to where if Marvel wanted, they could pull out that actress, Tim Miller, the writers, whoever, and bring them into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
At this point in time, it's worth thinking about how do we integrate as opposed to keep creating separate, or maybe they keep it separate. The long game of the X-Men and the Marvel Universe together, we already know that the Marvel Universe itself is going to have to reshape. It's going to have to change because some of the actors are not going to be around going forward. It's not 100% that, but it's very assumed that because it's been a long time that they've been playing these characters. And so they're introducing new things in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. At some point, sure, we can do stuff with this to have them all meet up, but that doesn't need to be soon. And if they just say, let's make some quality X-Men movies first and do it our way, but still let it be its own thing. Once you introduce mutants into the Marvel Universe, it's hard to not have mutants be in everything. And what they did in having Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch introduced is they were unique. There weren't 100 other ones. In doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and introducing Inhumans in that, it's like the Inhumans, for worse, not better, were the mutants for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but the films don't want to deal with that shit because it causes there to be way too many capes, and we've already seen a giant run of all of them coming at the screen in the Avengers 4 preview or Avengers 3 preview, and two, it's just like you can't go down the street without bumping into some Inhuman somewhere. That's a hard thing to sell. It takes the specialness away. So Inhumans and mutants and all the other kinds of superheroes it becomes too much. So I don't know what the long-term goal of having all those things crossover is. It's like having the Avengers meet the Justice League. It's like, it's all cool in that one story, in that one context, but that you can't have it be like, oh yeah, we're in New York all the time. I don't know how we've never run into each other, Superman. You're absolutely right, Captain America. It seems kind of far-fetched and stupid. You know, you enjoy the suspension of disbelief once, but the rest of the time you can't just be like, oh, or like in the Marvel Universe when they put the Heroes Reborn Earth on the opposite side of the sun. So like the two Earths are just spinning around, they never see each other. And they both got their own moons and everything, and it's just like, no, that's fucking stupid. That is just way fucking stupid. Nobody's buying into that shit. But I do agree. It would be nice. It would be nice to have them be able to interact. I know that Sebastian Stan is pushing really hard to get Wolverine into a Marvel property at some point so they can meet up and everything, because he's friends with Hugh Jackman. Perfect world, it would have always been that way at this point in time, 15 years in.
So I'm gonna say something pretty controversial on that part right there. Hugh Jackman's come out and said he's done playing Logan. He's done playing Wolverine. I sort of don't want to see him come back as Wolverine.
Yeah, but he always said that he would play him again if he could play him with the rest of the Avengers. And so that's the question. Is it the right thing to do? No. Is it fan service? Yes. Would it sell tickets? Probably. And that's where you have to be very careful. That's where again, we've seen Fahey has a good hold on this whole thing so far, because he hasn't done things strictly for fan service. And in some ways, I think that's been to the detriment, because we're just now talking about a Black Widow movie. But in other ways, it's been the right thing to do. And I hope that we continue to have that kind of respectful and intelligent thought process going forward. But it's like saying that there will never be a Marvel crossover with Star Wars. At some point there's going to be, because the people who are in charge of it now are not always going to be in charge of it. And the accountants fucking get power really fast because everybody looks at them to cut the checks.
And with that, I only expect one way that happens, and that is Patton Oswalt's rant on Parks and Recreation.
Yes.
That is it. All
roads lead to Patton.
Yeah. But with that being said, Corey had it hard out 30 minutes ago.
I did.
So we are going to wrap up here.
I don't know how to shut up.
Yeah. So we're going to wrap up here, and we're going to wrap up by saying you can contact us by leaving us a voicemail at 805-328-3966 or emailing us mail@elsenerds.com. All of our subscription options and links can be found over at gncasts.com/subscribe. It's also, you go to look up on all the social networks for Galactic Netcasts, and you will find the Galactic Network. You could follow the show on Twitter at ElseNerds. You can follow our producers, Beatmaster80, Mr._Fusion, that is Evan Rockty, over on the Twitter. That is their Twitter handles. You could follow me. I'm over at That Gregor. You can follow Sean. He's at SBurnsPA. And Corey, where can people find the comics? Oh, crap. I keep doing this. I always ask, and I know I shouldn't ask about the comics, but can you please tell me about don'taskcomics.com?
Worst kept secret in the internet, yet somehow still not getting a lot of views. Go to don'taskcomics.com.
Yes.
That's where you can find the comics that I help publish for Levi Krause and friends. You can look at the archives for Balyar, for Levi's World, for Spells, for Strobe, for Shock. I can't even explain to you what the fuck Shock is. Just know that you're taking your life in your own hand, checking it out. But yeah, don'taskcomics.com. Come visit.
And the final thing to be said is, this has been a Don't Tell Glenn production. We will see you next week.
Or else.
more on this Galactic Network podcast, go to gncast.com. That's GNCASTS.com.